Hey guys, welcome into March's speed reviews. This is my purchase or pass faves and fails video that I do every month at the beginning of the month to talk about all of the items that I tried for the previous month. There are 41 different items that I tested. Some of these are duplicates, so there's more than 41. Anytime it's the same product but just a different shade, I count it as one. I do show cutaways, you guys, of me applying everything. Usually I just put on some of my favorite products, but this time I decided that I wanted to sit down and put on a lot of these products because I thought that would be helpful. So as I'm going, I will be showing those cutaways, you guys. Buckle in. This is probably going to be a longer video. Let's get started. So most of this stuff is new releases, not all of it. But the first thing in the primer category that I want to talk about is the Yummy Skin Water Powder Serum from Danessa Myrix. This is supposed to be a mattifying and priming face serum. It's very liquidy. It's got the consistency of water. It goes on super smooth, very easily sinks into the skin. Its performance isn't overly mattifying for me. It doesn't control my oils all day long like I kind of hoped that it would. It's nice in everything that I just mentioned, that it's very lightweight, it's easy to apply, it sinks into the skin. Ideally, because it's this powder finish, it would help to keep my oils more at bay. It just kind of does a mediocre job at doing that. I feel like I have powders that lock down better or mattifying foundations that show better results than this did. I was hoping this was going to be more for me. I really was. That's why I picked it up. And plus I'm always on the hunt for oil controlling products. This just kind of felt like an extra step that only moderately assisted with my oil control. So I was a little bit bummed about this particular product. I feel very similarly about this next product. This is just a little tester that I got from Dr. Brandt. It's the Pore Refiner Primer, Pores No More. I used this today just on my nose to kind of illustrate to you guys like just how pore filling it really is. It does a good job when you're applying it. It works similarly to the Danessa Myrix, that it's just kind of short-lived. I don't think the performance has longevity. I think it's very smooth and silicone-like when it goes on. Just doesn't stop my oils from producing the way that I wish it did. But I still think the blur is really nice. The next one that I have is also a primer slash sunscreen, new release from NYX. It's the Blur Screen with SPF 30. This has cactus flower extract and coconut juice. I did talk about this in one of my testing new makeup videos pretty recently, and I had mentioned this has fragrance in it, and I've pegged down what the fragrance is. It is very similar or exactly the same as the Marshmallow Primer scent. That's what it has. This is a little bit of a grippier primer, so I like that. It's not a super liquidy formula sunscreen. It sinks into the skin beautifully, no white cast. I actually really enjoy this. I've just been coincidentally testing a bunch of primers and sunscreens in one recently because I had some minis from advent calendars and beauty boxes that I had purchased, and I think I really like them. So I really enjoyed this. I think this is a purchase. The only thing is, if you don't like fragrance in your primers or in your sunscreen, then I don't want to recommend this to you. The fragrance is very, very minimal, but it's still there, it's still present. It just doesn't linger, so it's nice. Let's move on into eye products because that is how I applied everything to my face. The first one that I have, I hope is still available. This was the CoverGirl Exhibitionist Liquid Shadow Kelsey. It says Kelsey. I don't know if this was like a collaboration. It's just a shimmery liquid shadow with the doe foot applicator. I like this. It's a very thin, kind of watery formula. So initially when I swatched this, when I first got it, I thought I might not like it. And I thought that it might not stick to the lid or might not be as intense as I liked, but it's super easy to apply. And because it's a little bit thinner, it doesn't leave my lid as textured as some other liquid shadows. So if you can still get your hands on this, I do think this is a purchase. I think it's nice if you like a liquid shadow. The next ones that I have are semi-new releases from Moira Beauty. These are called the Star Show Shadow Pots. I picked up 7 different shades. So I think in the cutaway, I'm kind of only showing you 2. I was a little bit disappointed in these. I have to say, this is one of my very first Moira Beauty releases in the single eyeshadow department that had me just a little bit underwhelmed. I thought these would have more base pigment to them. I have been wearing these on their own, but they're very glittery without a ton of base pigment. But when you swatch them, they look like they'll have a strong base. But once they get to the eyes, it's mostly glitter. The glitter is very pretty and intense. I have typically used this with a glitter glue to reduce the amount of fallout, because if you don't, I do get fallout throughout the day, which is unfortunate. I just thought getting 7 different colors would be awesome to use as single one and done shadows because they were gonna have a ton of base pigment and they just didn't. It's not as though they all look the same sparkly, they're just not super intense on the eyes, and so I was a little bit disappointed. You can use these with your finger, you can use them with a brush, you can use them with a dry brush, they go on very easily. I don't think they're bad, I think they're just not what I was kind of expecting. So my recommendation for these, because I'm such a Moira Beauty single shadow fan, is if you were interested in testing these, get one shade and see how you like it. This is another new release. This one was from Essence. It's the Blend and Line eyeshadow stick. This is supposed to be long lasting and it's in the shade Full of Beans. It has a little bit of a shimmer to it. It's nice as a liner, but it is not very good at blending in. I was hoping this was going to be an affordable cream stick shadow that was going to blend very easily, that I could throw in the outer corner crease, whatever. Throw a nice little shimmer onto the lid. This is just good for a liner. It's really hard to blend out if you're not blending almost immediately. And if you are, it will over blend itself. So it's not the best quality. I think it performs like its price point essentially. If you're into stick shadows, I don't think that's a purchase. I feel like there are other ones on the market. I love the ones from ColourPop. I just wouldn't recommend getting those even though they're more affordable. Let's move on into mascaras. I tested 3 new mascara releases. The first one was the one from Refi. It's the Lash Sculpt. This is so gimmicky for me. I did not enjoy this mascara at all. The wand is so difficult to deal with. Ideally, this would hug the shape of your eye so that you could really roll it onto the lashes, but it's just not like the perfect shape. Not everybody has the same shape. It's okay for the right eye, but it's not great for the left eye. The formula itself is on the lighter side. You can build it up. It does give decent length. It's a creamier, more emollient formula, so it doesn't really get tacky when you're applying it. It takes a while to dry, so it's fairly buildable. It's just an absolutely difficult wand to deal with, and it's not even worth it. Going on the other lash on the left side is so tricky. It's nearly impossible. It takes me way too long to do my lashes. This is not a recommendation from me. The next one that I picked up was a mini from Givenchy. I'm not sure what they call this mascara. I love the wand. It's a molded plastic bristled wand, intensely pigmented, decently buildable formula. Nothing bad about this mascara at all. It's a really easy formula to work with. I like the buildability here. I like the pigmentation. I don't think it gives the greatest amount of volume, but it's a good lengthening mascara with good pigmentation. I thoroughly enjoy this. Doesn't irritate my eyes. I highly recommend that. I want to say that's probably my new favorite luxury brand mascara. My other one would be Gucci because that's an extremely buildable formula. This is probably just beat out the Gucci one because it's more intense. It's just more pigmented. Another mini that I picked up, also a new release, it's the Tartelette XL Tubing Mascara from Tarte. This one is awesome. I really enjoy this. The wand again is your plastic bristled molded wand, short bristles. It gets super close to the lash line. It's a stickier formula, so it immediately grips every lash and it creates a nice fanned effect. It really separates each of the lashes so it looks like they're more numerous. I don't know if I find this tubing in that I don't think it gives me extra length. I think that it's pigmented enough that it defines the length that I have, but the pigmentation on this is so intense. I think it's a really good mascara. I just don't think it comes off in tubes. I think it comes off like a normal standard mascara. Still very good. I wouldn't call it a tubing mascara though. I want to go into a mix-in product. It's actually just a liquid bronzer. Also a new release from Iconic London. This is called the Instant Sunshine Bronzing Drops. I have used this on its own on top of foundation. My cutaway here, I am mixing this in for you guys. I have to say, I really enjoy mixing it into the foundation. When I'm using this as a standalone product, I like it just on the cheeks. This is intense if you use it on top of foundation, and if you're going in with a decent amount of product. This locks down on your skin all freaking day and it remains bronzy and shimmery. It's almost gold. If you mix it into the foundation and apply it just the places that you really want it to show, it's such a nice sheen without being glittery. It's a really pretty product. It's like a gel formula. Again, intensely long lasting. This will last all day. It's like a gel texture, but it has a bit of stickiness to it. Like it has tack in its formula. So I like it both ways. I just prefer mixing it into my foundation. I have one foundation that I tested. This is the Lancome Tint Idole Ultra Wear. This is the Ultra Matte Foundation, or the 24-hour wear foundation, but it's supposed to be like an ultra matte coverage. They launched some new additional lighter shades in this. I have mine in the shade 105W, which is the same shade that I have in the Ultra Wear Care and Glow. I picked this one up because I'm into really mattifying foundations, especially for the summertime, which is fast approaching here in Florida because our spring is basically summer. I was really shocked this wasn't more mattifying. I was expecting this to be all day long coverage. It didn't last even as long as my Ultra Wear Care and Glow. I feel like the Ultra Wear Care and Glow is a stiffer, moussier formula. 24-hour foundation is a runnier, kind of luminous matte foundation. It's not ultra matte. And my Care and Glow lasts longer than this one does. It's almost like this is a like liquid to powder formula here, whereas this one kind of is a dewy or a satin finish, so it locks down on my face a little bit better. So a little bit shocked. I like the coverage. I think it's medium buildable coverage. I like that it's not a drying matte formula. I like that it's a lightweight formula too. Everything about it is nice. It's just not as long lasting as I thought it was going to be, and not as long lasting as my Care and Glow, which I absolutely love. I had one under eye corrector. This is a new release from Cali Ray. What did they call this? The Hideaway Brightening and Hydrating Under Eye Serum Concealer. So technically concealer, but it only came out in color correcting shades. This one is in the shade Dawn, which is the lightest in pink. This is a fully glass bottle, very lightweight formula, very liquidy formula, no tack to it. It's more light to medium coverage. It's not super intensely opaque, but I think it does a decent job in correcting the darkness under my under eyes. Super duper lightweight, like serum-like, and every concealer I have now used on top of this product, it does not sink into my fine lines. It doesn't make my concealer look heavy. It doesn't crease. It works perfectly with every concealer so far that I've paired it with. I must have paired it with like 5 different types of concealers at this point. So I actually think this is a really good product. I have been enjoying using this because I think the consistency is very unique in my collection. So that's a purchase for me. I also think this is a really good release. This is the new Stay Concealer. This is called the Slip Tint Concealer. I have mine in the shade 3. They do have another concealer that I think they still carry in their line that was like full of oils. It was more light coverage. It was very radiant. This does also claim to be slightly radiant. It's definitely obvious under the under eyes. This takes a while to set itself down, and while it's still wet, it does have this really radiant finish. I would say this is light to buildable medium coverage. I would not say that it's my longest lasting concealer either, but it's perfectly balanced formula, is very lightweight, that doesn't crease, doesn't sink into my fine lines, and doesn't look heavy under my under eyes. All the good stuff a concealer should do. And the radiance isn't appalling. It's not like the greasiness that the other one had. But I think this is a really good one. I've been enjoying that one as well. Now let's move on into contours and bronzers. I have another new release. This one is from Glossier. It's the Cloud Paint Seamless Cheek Color in the shade Sail. Same liquid gel formula as their blushes. Super easy to apply, looks beautiful on the skin. Most of the colors that came out in this line were fairly neutral, at least the ones that I looked at. This doesn't have a ton of warmth to it. It's basically a very, very neutral liquid cheek product. I don't know if they would call this a bronzer or like a contour. It's too light really to be a contour shade for me, but it's a beautiful neutral toned bronzer. Super easy to apply. I have been enjoying products like this a lot lately. I have mentioned that several times. Gel formula bronzers are my recent obsession, and this meets that. This is such a fun product to use, super duper simple. I highly recommend that as well for a neutral gel formula bronzer. Then I just happened to pick this up. This is not new. I was walking through Target. It's the Mega Bronzer in the shade One Cool from Makeup Revolution. The reason that I got this is because when I was walking through the makeup section, as one does, who loves makeup, I thought this had a really nice reddish tone to it, and it does, don't get me wrong. And I do believe that this was the lightest shade that they had, potentially the lightest shade in the line. I don't know if it's reading back on camera just how red this tone looks. It's just a little bit too deep for me, and it's finicky. It does not like every single brush that I pair it with. I have to use a pretty fluffy brush. It's shaped like perfectly, otherwise this formula will get patchy. It's such a shame because it's such a soft, pillowy formula. The problem is it does have a decent amount of tack to it, and so it can skip on the skin. And I like the shade of this once it gets to my cheeks, and I'm really into a reddish tone bronzer at the current moment. So it's definitely something that I thought about holding on to, but I do have other reddish tone bronzers that I'm currently in love with. So I can pass this on because those other bronzers take the cake. This one just doesn't. And it, like, I don't know, something is broken or loose in here. So I'm gonna pass this along to somebody else. That was not a recommendation from me. Another new release, this one is from KVD. This is the Good Apple Bronze and Sculpt Balm Duo in the shade Fair 100. So one side here is supposed to be a bronzing shade and one side is supposed to be more of a sculpting / contour shade. So you get one side with warmth, one side that has a neutral tone to it. Very nice balm formula. It's moussey, but once you swatch it out, it does feel like a powdery finish. So it's a very buildable formula. Formula is great. It's the shade for me is not perfect. The bronzy shade is too deep and too warm. I won't get any use out of it. I actually really like the contour shade for bronzing because it's a very neutral tone. And also I think the pigmentation is a little bit different. The bronzy tone is so much more opaque than the contour shade. So I thoroughly enjoyed this side for bronzing. So I've only gotten use out of half the product. I don't want to recommend half of a workable product to anybody. I just happen to love this like almost powdered finish thin formula. It locks down because it's got this powder finish. If you're somebody who likes a warmer tone bronzer or this would work for you for your skin tone, then I think this is a really good product. I actually really like this. Packaging's a little bit, you know, chintzy, cheap, whatever. I honestly can get over that 9 times out of 10. Just this super silky formula. I'll probably end up panning this side, but this side's gonna get totally ignored from me. I picked up a few things from Kevin Aqua. This is one of the sculpting powders in light. I still want to pick up the Neo Nude bronzer, Neo something bronzer, which is a gradient. I'm really interested in testing that out, and I think it has kind of a reddish base to it as well. But I picked this up as a bronzer that has neutral tone. This is such a beautiful product. Soft, it's buildable, it's easily blendable, it's the perfect shade for my fair skin. It's not too gray. It's got almost this like brownish reddish tint to it, even though it like doesn't look like that in the pan. Once it gets to the cheeks, it's perfectly shaded. It's perfect. This is absolutely what a sculpting powder should be in light, basically. So that's a huge recommendation for me if you have similar interests in bronzer tone. Couple more new releases. These are from NYX. These are their Buttermelt bronzers. I picked up 2 of the lightest shades. The lightest shade is Buttercup, and the next one is All Butted Up. So it's like BM's B01 and B02. The thing I don't love about these is that they have talc in them. These also have a bit of fragrance to them as well, which they didn't need to do in my personal opinion, but the formula is fabulous. These are so soft and they're so creamy. The shades are perfect and perfectly different. My favorite one is All Butted Up. Surprisingly enough, I like the one that is the second lightest shade more than I like the lightest shade. The lightest shade comes out a little bit peach on my skin, even though it looks more pink in the pan, but I still really love the shade. I still think it looks like super flattering on my cheeks. I think the reason that I love the second lightest shade is because it definitely pulls more red or pink on my cheeks than the other one does, which comes out more peach. And I think this is more of what I was looking for. I like them both. I just like the shade just a little bit better. They blend with every single brush. They're so airbrush looking on the cheeks. I just thoroughly enjoy when I put them on and how my cheeks look. So those are a huge recommendation from me. I put on blush next, so let's go through blushes. I want to say all of these are new releases. Yeah, they are. The first one that I have is the Blush Duo, the Good Apple Blush Balm Duo from KVD. Mine is in the color story 10, which is Secret Thicket, and the 2 shades are supposed to be Hollowed Apple and Hidden Apple. So the Hidden Apple is like the brighter red. These are both beautiful shades and both of them work for me. And I want to say the Hidden Apple, the brighter kind of burgundy shade, is more unique in my collection. It's the same formula as the bronzer / contour, where it's like this kind of thick moussey texture, but it's almost like this powdery finish. So again, it's like an all day lasting blush. I think it's beautiful. Another thing is I think you can sheer these out or build these up with super intensity depending upon the type of brush or sponge that you use to apply these. I also think it has like a slight radiance to it as well. Even though it's like this powdery finish, I still feel like it's not flat on the cheeks, but doesn't transfer. It's not a like greasy balm texture with a ton of sheen to it. It may not be the most unique thing in my collection, but it's definitely an easy, simple formula to work with. Very hassle-free, very approachable blush, so I enjoy it. The next ones that I have are the new releases from Haus Labs, the Color Fuse blushes. I picked up the 2 new shades. So this one over here is in Fire Moon. This one is in French Rosette. It seems like the same great formula, super soft and fluffy, goes onto the cheeks beautifully, super easy to apply with basically any brush. These are smaller than the other blushes. These compacts also do have like the shades on the outside. And even though these are 2 new shades, I do have to say that French Rosette is very, very similar to Pomelo Peach when it gets to the cheeks. I have mentioned this before. So if you do have the Pomelo Peach shade, I do not think you need French Rosette. I think the more interesting and the more unique shade added in addition to this particular line was definitely Fire Moon, which is kind of an orangey, deeper orangey terracotta shade. It's very beautiful on. Also probably a pretty unique color in my collection, but I want to do like a swatch of side by side to show you just how similar French Rosette and Pomelo Peach are, because they're kind of more vibrant, corally shades. Honestly, once they get to the cheeks, they're not that much different. So up top here, you guys, is the new shaded French Rosette, and this one down here is Pomelo Peach. It's a beautiful formula. They feel identical, but if you had Pomelo Peach, I don't know that you needed French Rosette. And Pomelo Peach is still offered in this line. It was also brought back in this smaller packaging. The next 2 that I have are also new releases. These are from Flower Beauty. These are called the Ultra Light Liquid Blushes. I picked up 2 shades, Toasty in this more terracotta shade and Cheeky in the pinker shade. These are akin to the Charlotte Tilbury matte formula. They're super easy to blend out. They're immensely buildable formula. You can go in with 1 dot and sheer them out. You can keep layering this product on top of itself. It might be matte, but it's not flat. It has a slight bit of radiance to it with no shimmer, with no sparkle, with no pearlescence about it. The Toasty one almost stains my cheeks. They're really long lasting. Again, extremely buildable, easy formula to use. I thoroughly enjoy these. I think if you're a fan of the Charlotte Tilbury matte beauty wands, that you would love those. Those are an easy dupe for those wands. 2 more new releases. These are the Radiant Liquid Blushes from Juvia's Place. I picked up the more pinky shade in Rosy Posy Glow, and then the more corally pink shade in Soft Tulip Glow. These have 2 things about them that make them very radiant. The first is their pigmentation. They have like gold swirls throughout. They're not sparkles, but it's sheen. It's definitely a ton of gold pigmentation that's probably equivalent to the amount of pink pigmentation that's in here. So they look really oiled and kind of metallic on the cheeks, but also they are dewy. They have a radiant finish to them. I don't have either of these shades in their matte formula, so this was a nice addition to my collection. However, I will say once these get to the cheeks, I can't tell the difference between the 2. They look so similar. So they may not be for everybody, but I think they're a very easy formula to work with and just as long lasting as their original formula. So I enjoy these as well. I'm not hating on a lot of stuff today. I probably won't. I really enjoyed this lot of things that I tested in the month of March. The next one that I have up is also a new release. It's from Bosma. It's just called the Cream Blush. This one is in the shade Mauve. First time me testing anything from Bosma. I really enjoy this. This is such a buildable, juicy formula that looks like 2-dimensional in the cheeks. It's more of a flush of color than it is like this super intense pigmentation. I can use this product with literally anything. A sponge, a brush. It almost looks glossy on the cheeks, but it's not sticky. It's basically fully dry with a glossy finish, and it gets drier too. It does eventually kind of dry down. This is not an intensely pigmented product. Again, it's more of a flush of color, but you can build up the pigmentation. I like that it's a more buildable formula, quite honestly. I don't think I have anything quite like this in terms of like compact and shade and finish in my collection. So I thoroughly enjoyed this for what it was. Again, I think it's just very approachable makeup, very simple and very easy to use, just uncomplex. When you sit down to do your makeup, that product I feel like performs really well and easily. Another new release here from Tarte. This is the Man Eater Satin Blush Cheek Plump. I picked this one up because it was such a unique shade. It almost looks grayish purple in the component, but once you get it to the cheeks, it's so much more pink in pigmentation once you blend it out. This one is in the shade Mauve. I like dotting this straight onto the cheeks. I do think it's easy to blend in, but I think it matters what kind of brush or tool you use to blend this in. Not as simple as the Bosma blush. I like to take a really fluffy brush to blend this in. I just feel like it looks more seamless on the cheeks. This is a perfectly satin finish. It's not as glossy as the Bosma one, but it's not fully flat. It's nice. I prefer the other one more just because I feel like the other one gives me more pizzazz. The one that is the Cheek Plump, it just has more of a glossy finish and it's more unique in my collection. And I honestly wish this color stayed more true once it got to the cheeks and didn't turn quite as pink as it does. I wish it stayed this like super cool toned purpley mauve. I think that would have been super nice. But if you didn't like the Cheek Plump and you prefer a more satin finish, this is awesome. It has good longevity as well. Another new release here. This one's from Milk Makeup. It's one of the Cooling Water Jelly Tints. I got this one in a pretty deep shade. This one is in Splash. I want to say it's like one of the deeper purple shades. I was a little fearful a lot of these would come out very similarly colored, so I picked up the deepest shade. Yes, it is a little bit gimmicky, but it's still a beautiful product. Also another one that matters how you put this on. I do not like applying this directly to my cheeks. I do take a pretty fluffy brush to blend this in, and surprisingly it picks up on the brush really well. Even though it has a pretty fast dry down time, brush application still buffs in perfectly. It is a really long lasting formula. It is basically staining. This will last pretty much all day if I'm not overly touching it or whatnot. I like this shade. I want to say it does come out fairly pink. So I kind of wonder what the other shades would end up looking like, and or if they ended up looking similarly once you buffed them in. I want to say this also has a very slight radiant finish as well. Even though it's a tint, I still don't think it looks flat on the cheeks. So while I think it's a little bit gimmicky, I still like the way this performs. But again, I would not recommend to anybody to put this directly onto their cheeks and pat it out. I think it dries way too quickly, and I think their best bet is honestly to just pick it up with a brush. I picked up a new release from Makeup Forever, their new HD Skin Setting Powder. This one is in 1.1 Light Vanilla. This one comes with its own puff on the inside. Nice little opening, nice little inside. A lot of product does fall into the top component here, or top part of this component, and so you can pick it up with their little puffy. Their little puffy also is super soft and it's very good quality. It's thick. It's just like the puffies that I use. So every time I use this powder, I do use that puff. This powder is very blurring. It's very lightweight on the skin. You don't even feel it. The only thing is it doesn't lock my makeup down all day long. Like I kind of was hoping it was a little bit more of an oil controlling setting powder. It's definitely a high price point. I want to say this retails for roughly $60, if not 60, but this is a huge amount of product. I don't have a comparison right here next to me to demonstrate how like big this is. This thing is huge. This is definitely a lot more powder than I normally purchase in my normal size powders. I think it's beautiful and blurring, and I do enjoy it because it's very non-offensive. But again, like as you can kind of see, like right now my nose is even getting a little bit dewy as I've been sitting up here filming for so long at this point doing these cutaways. So I think it's nice. If you have dry skin, I even think you could get away with using this. If you have oily skin, don't expect it to lock down your face all day. And that's what it claims to do. Undetectable shine control setting powder. So anyway, it's nice, light and nice, not overly oil controlling. I had one highlighter. I use it as a highlighter. This is a new release from Dior. This is the, what do they call this? The Forever Glow Maximizer in the shade Pink. It's called a Spectacular Highlighter Long Wear 24-Hour Hydration Multi-Usage Product. Doe foot applicator, really easy to put on. It is so easy to blend in with your fingers. You could probably use basically anything to apply this. I really like the shade too. It doesn't have any sparkles in it. Maybe it has like pearlescence, but it could basically be a blush topper. It's got like the perfect amount of balanced kind of iciness. It makes my cheeks look juicy without being noticeable. I have laid this on top of basically every formula blush at this point. Matte, powder, radiant. It looks beautiful on top of everything, and it lays well on top of everything. There's just something super pretty about it and super easy. As far as liquid illuminators or liquid highlighters go, sometimes they don't mesh well. Sometimes they're not easy to work with. And I do like something fast when I'm applying it. So again, this is just very approachable, very simple and easy to put on. Nice glass jar. And also it's like fully dried down as well. It doesn't remain sticky, even though it has a beautiful glow to it. I don't know, highly recommend that. I really enjoyed it. Okay, we are on into lip products. I had a ton of lip products and most of these are new releases. So the first one that I have is the Mommy and Danny lip gloss from DD Signature. I gave this a somewhat bad review when I was testing it for the very first time. This is in watermelon. She did release, I want to say 6 different fruity flavors. It does have like little bits of painted like strawberries in it. It's basically sheer. It's just a very soft wash of color. It has the scent of watermelon very distinctly, but it's not overpowering. The reason that I gave this a bad review is because I had like licked my lips and I had tasted something that was immensely sour, but I found out it comes from the next product. It does not come from this. This has no taste. This is basically a lip oil, not a lip gloss. There's no stick to it at all. It doesn't have any longevity, so I'm just a little surprised it's called a lip gloss. And when I got here, I thought this was a lip oil. It feels just like a lip oil. Again, very slippy, not a lot of longevity to this. Nice high shine if you're looking for something that's pretty short-lived, but it doesn't have any taste. I just want to reiterate, no taste whatsoever. It is this product that tastes like absolute sour, I don't know, sourness. This is the 101 ointment from Lanolips in the flavor Glazed Donut. So this is such a beautiful product on. It's very thick because it's an ointment, but it locks on your lips for like several hours if you don't touch it, with super high shine. It smells like maple donut, a maple bar, not glazed donut, distinctly like a maple bar. You can smell the maple bar after you put it on. The scent definitely lingers. It's super nourishing on the lips, but I licked this one after I had taken it off and thought it was the other gloss that I had put on after it, but it's this one. This one tastes like shit. It tastes so bad. It is super duper sour. So I do not recommend you lick your lips if you have this on. In every other aspect, it's fantastic. And if you love maple donuts, you won't find anything closer than this lip product. I just don't know how I feel about it tasting like shit. Another new release, this one's another flavored guy. It's the Lip Softy Tinted Lip Treatment from Tower 28 and Dolce de Leche. This tastes just like a little dessert. It's tinted slightly and I do like that. It's very slippy and very comfortable, very nourishing on the lips. Tastes delicious, it smells delicious. It's basically like putting a dessert on your lips. The only thing I don't love about it is that the applicator, the top of it definitely gets a little bit messy, kind of unavoidable. Not a big deal, I just wanted to mention that. Still another product that I highly recommend. And if you're looking for something flavored, I would definitely get the Tower 28 over the Lanolips just for the flavor, but they're very different in consistency, texture, finish, all of that. The Tower 28 is a very, very smooth, thick but smooth formula. The Lanolips is a full-on ointment. It's like the consistency of Vaseline, essentially, maybe even harder. I have another little tasty guy from Summer Fridays. It's the Lip Butter Balm in Birthday Cake. I don't know if this is limited edition, but this is definitely like a new shade slash flavor. I don't like this. I don't like this at all. It's thick and sticky and not the same formula as the other one that I have in Vanilla Beige at all. And it has pearls in it too, so the shade looks frosty on my lips. I don't enjoy this. Wasn't expecting not to like this at all because I love the Vanilla Beige one so much, but this does not feel like the same formula to me. So I do not recommend that. I have another new release from Odin's Eye. This was in collaboration with Annette from her Mighty Monster collection. This is one of the Shine Lippies in the shade Mystic Rose. Such a unique formula. It's honestly like a tinted balm, but more pigmentation than what you would think your run-of-the-mill balm, and it's also super buildable. It does have a little bit of stickiness to it, but it's overall just a very, very smooth formula on the lips. And I was really pleased to get the shade in Mythic Rose because it's this beautiful, like bright coral shade, probably something that she would really like to wear even. But yeah, quite unique shade in my collection. I highly enjoyed that. I liked that more than I thought I would. And then I picked this up, I'm not even sure where. It's the Lip Retreat Oil from Moira Beauty in the shade Skinny Dip. It's just very, very sticky. It's thick and it's kind of a pretty neutral color, but it's so sticky. I don't mind using it at all, especially because I think this is kind of a unique shade, especially in this super high shine in my collection. And the stickiness does help the longevity. It's definitely a longer lasting formula. It's just not a lip oil, a conventional lip oil that I think of. This is more of a gloss. However, this fills in my lip lines like really well. Because it's so thick, it like creates a barrier, it like smooths everything out. So it's one of those that's like, if I'm looking to manage something sticky, then this is nice for all those reasons that I listed. I definitely get thrown off when I put on something called a lip oil and it's stickier than a lot of the glosses that I have in my collection. But for every reason that I mentioned that it was good, I do enjoy it. Couple more new releases. These are from Milk. These are the Kush lip oils. These were specifically released for flavors. I got one in Orange Crush and then one in Cookie Dough. They're a nice shine. They're definitely your conventional lip oil formula. Very slippy. They don't last a super long time, but they don't fade off the fastest either. I was disappointed in the Cookie Dough. We're all about the flavors here. Cookie dough doesn't taste like cookie dough, smell like cookie dough. I don't know what it smells like, but it's not cookie dough. Both of these are sheer. The Orange Crush one a little bit more than nothing because it's so intensely kind of tinted orange. Orange Crush smells just like Orange Crush. It smells identical to one of those vanilla orange popsicles. They still make those. I ate a bunch of those as a kid. It was mine and my dad's like favorite. That's probably one of the few ice creams that him and I could agree on. Distinctly smells like my childhood ice cream. So I thoroughly enjoy this one. I do like the formula, but Cookie Dough was a letdown in terms of flavor and scent. Another new release from Meritt. This is one of the matte lipsticks. They call this the Signature Lip Matte. This one is in Mason, I'm pretty sure. It took me a couple of tries to actually like this formula. The first time that I tried it, was definitely emphasizing my lip lines, but then as I took off the top layer, it became much more smooth and a powdery finish. This reminds me a lot of like the MAC Powder Kiss formulas. The formula really fills in my lip lines. Like it looks like this beautifully dried matte formula. Pretty long lasting, beautiful shade as well. Enjoy this. Another new release from Patrick Ta. This is the Major Volume Plumping Gloss, and it might have just been like a new shade. This one is in Need Her. Nice opacity to this. It has a scent to it. I don't know if it's fruity. It's like a cross between fruity and potentially like a kid's medicine. So it may be not my absolute favorite, but it's tolerable. It is pretty. It has like a slight intense plumping effect. It's not entirely like cooling. It has a little bit of fire to it. I like the shade in Need Her too. I wouldn't call this line filling, but I think it has a decent amount of shine to it. It's a little bit of a thicker formula. I was throwing this in my purse because I really enjoyed the color. I just threw it on now. It's nice. I'm not head over heels about it, but it's not a bad plumping formula. Again, I think a lot of that like tingle just is a tingle for tingle's sake. I don't really feel like this actually plumps. So I picked up a gloss from Give Me Glow Cosmetics when I went and picked up one of their palettes. I want to say they're discontinuing this particular shade because it was literally $3 on their website, but they still have a ton of other shades in the same exact formula. This is I Melt for Mauve. This is such a cool tone mauve shade. I love it. I love this flat style doe foot applicator. I love this formula. I would get a bunch more of these glosses in different shades because they have good opacity, they have good pigmentation, they go on single swipe really nicely. They're also super smooth on the lips. They're not overly sticky. They have a little bit of stick so the color doesn't fade off right away, but they're not like goopy sticky. They're a pretty thin formula. Overall, just your standard, like what I like in a gloss formula. So I really enjoyed that. Then I have another from Kevin Aqua. This is not a new release, but it's part of the stuff that I picked up. This is one of the unforgettable lipsticks in the shade Modern Love. This is supposed to be a cream formula. It's a nice product, not as creamy as I was expecting, and it's a little bit thicker than I was kind of anticipating, but because it has a little bit of stickiness to it, it's not like the super emollient creamy formula that some products are. This color lasts hours on my lips for being a cream formula. So it's actually a pretty nice product. I picked up one of the liquid lip balms from Rowan, and I've heard good things about this. This is in the shade Charlie. It honestly reminds me a lot of the Moira Beauty lip oil. It's so funny how the consistencies can be very similar, and one's called a lip oil and one's a liquid lip balm. They're just so similar on the lips. Rowan is a little bit less sticky, but it still has stick to it, so it stays a decent amount of time, and it's such a emollient, slippy formula. It's quite comfortable. I don't know that I think this is super nourishing, but it's definitely smooth. I heard good things about this from Amanda Z, and that's why I picked this up in one of her lip balm declutters. This just didn't knock my socks off the way that I thought it was going to. Nice, but it's not one of my absolute favorites in my collection. And the last one in the lip category, this is a new release. It's the Maracuja Juicy Lip Final from Tarte in the shade Shimmering Cranberry. This is really nice shine, and I really like the shade, and I like the shimmer, but the pigment doesn't last as long as I think it should. It fades off in like an hour. This is also a thicker formula than the other two that I have in my collection. I was not expecting that. It's thicker and maybe stickier, and for whatever reason, this one has like a hole in the dead center of the product. I love the shimmer and I love the high shine, but it just doesn't last, even though it's thicker and it's stickier. I personally could have lived without this product. I think that the other formulas are fine. They're really good for what they are. I don't know that this is, aside from being stickier and a goopier formula, how this brought any additional value to these Maracuja Juicy Lips. So I like the shade. Again, the shimmer is really gorgeous and beautiful, and I love all of that, but it's not super long lasting. Like the color just kind of like sinks into my lips, and so it gets lighter and lighter and lighter. The thing I like about it is that it's this shimmering cranberry, and that dissipates. You can almost not even tell it's like the shimmering cranberry shade. So I was just a little bit disappointed. The very last thing is a perfume that I did pick up from Ulta. It is a new release. It is the Cosmos perfume from Kylie Cosmetics or Kylie Jenner. I picked this up because it had a floral vanilla base notes on it. I've referenced this particular product a couple of times. I actually really enjoy this. I don't smell a ton of vanilla, and it is pretty florally, but it's not rose floral. I do want to read the keynotes here so that I don't mess this up. So opening is supposed to be Star Jasmine and Blood Orange. The heart is Golden Amber Accord and Red Peony Accord. And the base is Vanilla Musk Accord and Cedarwood. So there's no rose in it. It wasn't intended to. It has jasmine, the red peony, vanilla musk, and cedarwood. The fragrance family is ambery floral, which typically I like. I will say I enjoy this. I think that it has a decent amount of lasting power. The bottle is super weird. I don't understand what the point is, but you can hold it. Like, it's nice that it has all these divots in it because it's easy to hold. And she does say this under the details, that the sculpture bottle was designed to look like a piece of art from another world and is formed to fit perfectly in the palm of your hand. I mean, maybe not the palm of my hand, but it fits into my hand. Anyway, weird kind of idea that they're trying to make it look like a work of art or a piece of art, and it's supposed to be just like a funny sculpture. However, I like the scent to it. It has several hours of wear time. It's not an all-day perfume, and it's not super intense. It's not the kind that I get super sensitive to that does give me a headache if it's too strong, especially if I catch it later. Sometimes it can stay on me and I'll go, you know, it's intense and it's been around a while. This has a dissipation about it, which is nice. I like when the perfumes breathe and they will fade off like gracefully through the day. I think this one does it. I don't hate this perfume. I actually think it's really nice. If you don't like a florally perfume, you might not like this. It is teetering though on like that old school florally scent, but it doesn't go as intense with the floral as it does, you know, maybe the cedar wood and the vanilla. She has different sizes in that, and that one I believe is the smaller version. I enjoy it. I don't know if I'll repurchase it, but I have mentioned this. I have a ton of perfumes that I'm working on now. So once I get through all of them, then I'll decide which ones I want to repurchase. That one may or may not be it. Don't know, but I do enjoy the perfume now. I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. That is it for all of the products that I tested for the month of March. I always love to hear your guys' feedback in the comments below. If you are not currently subscribed, I would love to see you subscribe so you can stick around. I'm out of here for today, you guys, and I hope to catch you all in my next video. Bye, guys.